Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of The Virtual Investor. Mike and I here, we're going to be talking about two different properties. We're going to go over one went very, very well and slightly better anticipated. The other one went helter skelter, but it turned out pretty well. So we're going to get
Nice way to
deeper
put it,
into
Paul.
those, Mike. Yes. So let's talk a little bit about those two deals here. We're going to start with the one that was the tougher one to deal with,
Yeah.
Charlestown. We held for much longer than we thought, but still worked out okay.
Yeah, it's almost a roller coaster ride of emotions. This one is, I guess, the way to say it. And the property here is in Charlestown, West Virginia. And we'll show pictures of the property in a second. But essentially, this is acquisition was an online REO auction property that we purchased. Funding on this project, Paul, drawn a blank on this one. Was this a mix of private lenders? I believe I was
This
on the
was
deal
actually
along with
Kiavi and private lenders.
yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
mix of asset-based lender and private lenders. Just for people out there, not all asset-based lenders lend up to 100% of a purchase price. So you might get anywhere from 80 to 90% of purchase price, and then you're going to have to do that gap funding of the remaining amount. Renovations going into it, we'll talk about in a second. We had very light to minimal to none going into it. It could be a potential wholesale. I'll show you the photos in a second. We use the local agent. We'll kind of go through some comp areas of the analysis, and then we'll kind of pivot into the story later with some unexpected challenges of the local town. And with that, let's go into what the property looks like here. Again, nice two-story home in West Virginia. Go through some photos, blow them up here.
And it was not in bad shape,
Presents well, gated yard, ideal for a family or a dog. You can see here, good condition. Again, these are post minor renovations that we made. We'll kind of go into that in a second. But just want to give everyone a flavor of what it looks like on the sell side here. Presents well. Easily found the buyer in this area. And second story continues here is the bathrooms. Again, nicely recently updated property. Mm-hmm. And some of the renovations we did here is kind of zoom up here a little bit is a mix of, painted the interior. You saw that. We did some stuff on the front porch, some ceiling repairs, work on the deck, etc. Nothing like overly crazy. I think the number we ultimately did was just over $10,000 in renovations on the property that you saw there, and that was kind of after renovations. The interesting part was we weren't really planning to do all those rehabs. However, initially what we thought was a wholesale. Again, the property was in pretty decent condition. We thought originally we were going to sell it for as is just around $200K, and we picked it up for $145,000 at auction, including the $7,000 in buyer's premium, and that would probably put us all in around $160. We were thinking a 4-month hold at the time with some closing costs, and we were expecting that around $25K on a quick 4-month hold on a wholesale deal here in West Virginia. Ultimately, what happened was the start of the roller coaster ride. The first thing that we ran into was it was a survey issue, I believe, Paul, with the line of the property and a dispute with the neighbor and the local township and having to get all redrawn. And ultimately, it sat for months, this property, with a buyer under contract. And we just had to wait to get this in front of the local township to get this kind of surveying type of issue resolved. Anything to add there, Paul?
Yeah, and that took several months. So that added additional holding costs to us. And we had to change the property lines because actually it was the owner of the property next door who owned both properties at one point. And he built this deck, which went onto his property, current property where he's living. So there's an issue there, right? So we had to end up buying a piece of his property to make sure it's all on ours and fit the guidelines that the township required.
Yep. So since we're holding on it, we kind of looked at, are there ways to make more money off this deal, right? Increase the value of the property. And those are essentially the rehab list that, some of it that you just saw there with the painting and everything else. And we ultimately spent about 10, 11K on rehab. These numbers are a lot bigger than a normal deal that we have. And a lot of it is due to us holding it a lot longer than we expected regarding interest payments and holding costs. And, some of these holding costs actually reflect payments that we had to make to the local township as well. So we kind of bury that in there as well. And then on the sell side, that's higher than usual too, but some of it has to do with seller's assist or credit that we kind of put in there as well to sell the property. Ultimately, we netted with like a 230 sales price. I think we got it under contract at 235 originally, but I think
Yeah.
that 5K credit here is really netted here. And then we ended up a profit of basically just under what we thought we'd get. But if you were to tell me halfway through this journey, Paul, I already had a zero on my
Yes. We talked about that.
From a profit perspective. But market continued to be strong. We had buyers. The improvements we made were good and found buyers quickly. And we were able to finally get this property. I'm guessing it was about a 8-month hold, probably at the end of the day, 9-month hold. I can't remember now off the top of my head.
It was 9. Yeah, I think it was 9 because we purchased it in December, and I think we sold it in August? Late August. So late August, early September, we sold it one of those 2 times. So it was a 9-month hold. Much longer than we thought. We had attorney fees there. It was $4,000 just to pay for the attorney costs. Then we had to pay the neighbor for the land. So that's part of what a lot of these costs are involved in here in the selling cost, the attorney cost, the renovation cost, and doing the survey. We had to pay a surveyor another $2,500 or so. Yeah. So this all added to our selling costs, which you see there, which are extraordinarily high and never normally that high, but a lot of those costs are factored in there.
Yep. Yeah. It's kind of paying out all those things that you just mentioned, but it is a good case study where things don't go out as planned. You reevaluate the situation, pivot. We decided, hey, if we got to hold it anyway, is there renovations we can make to get a higher purchase price and a better ROI on that money and on this deal? And ultimately, it got us almost back to square one, even with the double the amount of the hold period we had to do an additional unexpected, call it selling legal hold costs that we never anticipated in this property.
Yep. Yeah, no, and end up like really close to what we thought we were going to get. So we're really happy about that because you and I both had conversations. We were kind of writing it off as it was going to be a break even or a loss. And, it surprised to the upside here, which was good. Yeah. We're very fortunate.
Yeah. And then one thing we didn't look at here, comps of the western side of town that here kind of see values, a lot of high mid 270s, 250 to 270 on a lot of properties. There's what it ultimately sold for. So we knew we were priced right compared to, something like this out here where it's still a deal for someone. Again, this has a mix of dated and updates, kind of similar in line to the property we had. So it's a great value still for someone. And that's kind of why it moved quickly when it was ready again.
Absolutely. You look at it's an old town, right? So you're going to have a lot of houses that aren't updated. This one was very, very, very modern in comparison to a lot of others. So it definitely was more desirable property.
Yeah. Anything else on this one, or you want to pivot to the next one in Texas?
We'll go to the next one, which went very well, right? It was a smooth, quick, and easy one for us. We like these.
Yeah. So yeah, on these calls, we try to give you a flavor of like nightmare versus good dream type of scenarios. And these 2 properties fit both those descriptions. From a better process experience deal perspective, this property here is in Iowa Park, Texas. Again, surprise, surprise for folks that watch this call. We got this one through an online bank auction. And let's jump to what the property looks like first. Here's the property. Still labeled incorrectly on Zillow as a foreclosed, even though this property was already purchased by us, went through the foreclosure process and sold. You can see here, great condition.
Yeah, this is our ideal one, Mike, right? Where it's already, fairly modernly updated.
And I think these are actually old photos they must have put back up pre-us, because when we bought it, these are actually misleading because there was no furniture. It was vacant when we bought the property. So
you're right.
They must have taken off the recent photos and kept whatever was old on the listing at Zillow.
Yeah.
So this is kind of just you can see basically the good condition of the property scrolling through, especially the exterior and beautiful brick. And then, comps in the area, since we're here, you can see here down in Texas, we got everything in the north side of town, isolated. When you want to comp properties, you filter on if it's a house, just a house. If it's multifamily, click multifamily. And then from the comp range perspective, this was right in the middle, I think like 1,500 square feet. So you do plus 250, minus 250 type of thing from a square footage. And we jump around looking at last 12, last 6, et cetera, to kind of see the trends on where properties are going. And then also while you're doing that stuff, look at listings, right? You got for sale here, what's out there on the market. Stuff's as high as 330 and essentially as low as 150 from a pricing perspective. So that's kind of the market analysis. We also talked to a local agent in that area to get information to get a better understanding of our numbers. And what ultimately we originally thought was, as is 229, put in, just minor stuff that pops up, $2,000 kind of as a miscellaneous number that we thought we'd have to do. And we decided on a max bid of 171. Won the auction at that bid, and add in some closing costs, about 2,000 to it. So you're all in 173. We did about 9K of rehab, and the rehab we did were a mix of countertops on the property, new faucets, dishwasher, update a light or two, clean out. And ultimately, down here in the selling cost, why it's so high is we gave a roof credit. And I think that was about $9,000 roof credit, Paul, if I recall
It was
correctly.
a little more. Maybe it was nine, because we had original quotes like 11 to 13,000 on a roof, but it might have been nine because I think we got multiple quotes on this. That's why it pays to get multiple quotes.
Yep.
And it was hail damage. This is about an hour and a half, I think, northwest of Dallas, Texas. And Texas is known to have some big hail, and the hail damages these roofs quite often. So we just basically gave them a roof credit. They actually did the roof right after, I believe, we closed on it, or right before. I can't remember what the time was, but and the roofer ended up getting paid by us on it, which is why our costs are so high on selling in there.
Yeah. And then again, if you go back to our visual analysis here, no rehab expected, just miscellaneous stuff. We're expecting around 30K, 31 and change, quick wholesale there. And then what ultimately happened is, right, we ended up doing a little bit more work, sold for more than what we thought it originally get as is. So all the ROI made sense there, even with the roof credit. And we ended up netting, again, the dust settled already on this one, north of 35K, which is higher than what we expected from a wholesale perspective even. So this is a good example of a quick in and out property at auction, complete opposite of what we experienced on the other property.
Yeah. This is more our norm, Mike, especially what we've concentrated on the past 2 years or so. This is the type of property we like to get where, we're holding for 2 or 3 months. I think that's about all we held on this thing, just about 3 months or so from beginning to end. Quick rehab. Our ideal ones, we got one coming up in Union, Washington. It's going to close this week. It's going to be the same type of thing. We have a contractor ready to rock and roll on that one, to do some paint, some flooring, and then that'll go on the market really quick too. Those are the ones you really do want to target and find properties that just, especially if you're newer out there, you want to find something that doesn't need a ton of work so you can get in and out of it quickly, especially with interest rates higher the way they are right now on a loan like this. So you want to get in and out as quick as you can and increase your profits. And this worked out really well for us, a little bit more than we thought, and surprised to the upside a little bit, and worked out well. And hopefully we get more and more of these.
Yeah. And again, we'll continue to publish these videos as we get new properties and other ones closed to kind of do this before and after.
And we are recording this in middle of October. So we are getting into our prime buying season here from the banks. So for those of you thinking about getting into buying bank REOs, now is the time to jump in. Between now and March of the next year is the prime. That's when we'll pick up quite a bit of our inventory. So we're hopefully that trend will continue this year. I know it's been a little bit slower than normal, but as we get closer to the end of the year, I'm anticipating these banks are going to release some more of these properties just to get things off the books.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. I think that wraps that up. Anything else to finish with these two, Mike? Any learning lessons there that we have?
Nah, I think we covered a lot here today on the call, but if you have any questions, folks watching this, feel free to dump it below in the comment section, and we're happy to answer those questions for you.
Yep. All right, everybody. Thank you. We'll catch you in the next episode.